Hello, this is Annie, and I'm back in Veronaville for another speed build. Today I am on the cap side of the neighborhood and sort of in between some of the houses that I have been renovating so far. I figured that this part of town should be owned by the Cap family, so I'm going to make this house and the house right next to it part of the Cap ownership. And just to start off, I wanted to fix the faces that I have altered using SimPE and some tricks. I extracted Goneril and Albany's appearances in SimPE and then went into a test neighborhood to sort of generate children from them, like biological children that I wanted them to look like. And then I used the same fix as I've used for fixing broken face templates to override what the children look like. And that way I can actually fix Hal's broken face and then also at the same time make a little bit more interesting appearances for Desdemona and Ariel, who have quite no normal second face template faces in my opinion. So yeah, I wanted something that looks a little bit more like their parents, and I actually quite like the way that Goneril and Albany look, and they always make very stunning children, I think. So yeah, that was what I wanted to do with this. And this house from the start was quite small actually, and I knew from the beginning that they would have to do a quite extensive renovation, of course, in order to fit in everything, because it's a pretty big family after all. And I still wanted to use this skeleton, of course, to keep some of the personality of the house, if you could say that. So at first here I am attempting to, keep the house almost completely as it was from the start. And I added in a garage, of course, because they need cars, but also I felt like that was a good way to extend the house in a fairly natural way. And then my thoughts went to what should happen when you enter the house. And of course, there needs to be like an entranceway, and whenever I imagine an entranceway, I am also visualizing a staircase. Because it just makes sense to me that the staircase should be at the front of the house. When you come in, maybe you decide if you want to go upstairs or not. That just makes sense to me rather than having the staircase further into the house. So that's what I started to do. And at first, with just having sort of 4 tiles to work with, I accidentally just sort of screened off that first part of the upstairs with the staircase. So I extended it with 1 extra tile there at the front, and that way it actually also became a little bit more symmetrical, the house, than it was from the start. And one of the most striking features, I feel like, in Veronaville specifically, when you look at the houses and the way that they are built, is that they tend to have these sort of shaped it's not dormers, but it's like an outsticking part of the house on the upstairs. Not sure what that's called, but yeah, you can see that in at least in the Tudor style houses. So you will have a sort of a flat wall on the downstairs, and then upstairs you have an outsticking piece. So I wanted to incorporate that in the house as well, to make this not look just like a box, And here I am also incorporating the garage with a doorway, and I really should have done this after putting in the garage door. You will see why later. But yeah, at this point I still kept this being sort of a kitchen downstairs as you come in from the entrance. And then also the bathroom is pretty much in the same space as it was from the start. And that was pretty much what I could fit into the downstairs, and then everything else would have to go upstairs. But that very quickly turned into a challenge because even though the upstairs is quite spacious actually, it turned out that it really wasn't enough, at least not the way that I had planned it, because I wanted all of the children to have a bedroom each, and trying to lay that out and also give the parents a spacious room. And then I also sort of realized that, oh, but they don't have space for a living room. Where's that gonna go? So yeah, in the end, I had to take a real hard look at this and decide to extend it a little bit more, actually. And as you can imagine, this was not a cheap project, and this family starts out with just 20,000 simoleons, which really is nothing for an aristocratic family like this. So yeah, I gave them quite a lot of money, actually. I was very generous about it. I think I gave them like over 100,000 simoleons to make this work in the end. But that was necessary to give the vision that I had. And yeah, I'm glad that I did, because I really needed that space for this family. And I think that the house looks deceptively big, really, because the garage takes up so much space downstairs. It's really the upstairs that's the biggest part of the house. And as I've been planning on how to build this and what to do with this family, of course, I've been taking a look at the Sims themselves. I have quite some experience with them since I've been playing them in the past. And this family was actually one that I really, really enjoyed a lot playing with, I remember. But then I wasn't that familiar with their Shakespearean counterparts, actually. So I've been looking into that, and yeah, that in combination with the family story that's going on is actually not what I had imagined, one could say, because just reading the biographies of the Sims and everything, it seems like this is a very dysfunctional family, to be honest, because at first you have, Albany and Goneril's relationship, right? And yeah, they're both appearing to be very insecure in each other. At least Goneril is doubting why Albany wanted to marry her. She feels like he just wanted to marry her for the money. And she is also put in a position that she didn't really want to be in. She wanted children, but she really didn't want a house full of children. And that's the situation she's in at the moment. So that's actually, I think, really, really interesting twist of events when you compare what Goneril is like in King Lear. Because in King Lear, she's portrayed sort of like a villain, that she pretty much wants her father's kingdom. So she's scheming against him, I think. Or at least she's pretending to love him more than she is loving him in order to gain his favor. And that's actually what Goneril in The Sims is fearing of her husband. So I feel like that's a pretty interesting parallel. I'm not sure if Albany is that present as Goneril's husband in the play. But he's the, I think, Duke of Albany or something like that. But then in The Sims, I think that what was his biography? It was something like he was worried about Goneril. Right, yeah, it was something like his family is fighting with each other. Like they're not getting along, and he is worrying for that reason. I think something like that. And that's actually tying together also with the way that the children have their biographies written. Just pausing here to talk about the roof, because oh my god, this roof was pretty much impossible to figure out. And the way that I built it at first was actually something that I quite liked, but then there was this really, really strange out-sticking part on the side where I tried to piece the two buildings together into one unit. And as you can see, I've cut out a lot of the footage here, but I tried a bunch of different styles of roof, but nothing looked good. And I was quite frustrated at this point, actually, trying out all these different solutions and nothing really worked. So yeah, I'm coming up to the final solution here. And this is what I quite liked from the start, but as you can see, that's a really awkward piece of wall there. So I decided to use a half wall to sort of build this connection between the roof pieces. And then I had to lower it a little bit to make it not stick out on the other side of the roof. But that's actually the way that I ended up resolving that. So it was a little bit of a journey, but I got there in the end. And here you're gonna see my big failure with the garage door and why you should probably put it in from the start if you build a garage like this. Yeah, going back to The Sims. So yeah, that's the story that's going on with the siblings. If you read the biographies of The Sims, that yeah, either they're just wanting to get out of the house and is sort of annoyed with the big family like Miranda is, or they feel overlooked, sort of like at least Ariel and a little bit for Desdemona, I think, as well. Desdemona wants to be like her older sister, and then yeah, Hal appears to be I guess a bit of a hard person to get along with. Not sure how to explain it. But then on the inside, he's actually like a good kid. I guess you could summarize it like that. And yeah, I've been looking up these Shakespearean characters actually. When it comes to Hal, that's actually apparently a nickname being used for Prince Henry V, as he was a young prince at least. That's what they called him. And in the first play he appears in, he's this really rebellious character who's out on pubs and hanging out with criminals and doing dubious stuff. So I guess that I'm gonna go with a sort of villain arc for Hal when I get to his story, because that's appearing to be sort of what, at least where Hal the prince started out in the story. And then, yeah, he matured a little bit, I guess. Or maybe he didn't. He waged war against France later. So I guess he didn't really mature that much. But yeah, so yeah, I think that also is portrayed a little bit in the way that they have dressed Hal in the game, in that really rebellious outfit for a kid, you know? So I think that is probably the idea. Yeah, and here, since I have used the constraint for elevation sheet to make this garage, I have to be really restrictive with what kind of wallpaper I'm using, because otherwise I'll get these really wonky shapes in some parts. So I decided to go with the stucco. Actually the same shade of stucco that's on the Monty ranch on the other side of Veronaville. So yeah, that was a fun thing to tie together with this part of town as well. But I felt like it really suited it. Actually, I don't think I've gotten to that shade of it yet. I'm still having the Maxis color, but it's going to be a little bit more orangey soon. So yeah, that's the story for Hal. And that's sort of what I had in mind as I was furnishing his room later on as well. When it comes to Miranda, she is a pretty strong-willed female character in a story called The Tempest. And in that story, her father is a previous ruler of some sort of kingdom, I think, and is also a magician. So he is conjuring up a tempest and has the nobility crash on a deserted island so that he can punish them for betraying him, basically. And Miranda is with him on that journey. And I read it that she is a pretty strong-willed character who really stands up for her beliefs. And I think that there were several instances in that play where she stood up to her father and had her say and stopped him from doing some terrible stuff in some situations. So yeah, I think that also ties together with the way that they have written Miranda's biography in the game, because apparently she's pretty rebellious and strong-willed here as well. Not that she was particularly rebellious, though, in the play, I don't think, but I think that might just be the teenage phase she's in at the moment. And she's also a romance sim, and that's interesting because love is very much part of her story in the play. But of course, in the play, she finds her soulmate, really. So maybe that will be what Miranda is looking for as well. Who knows? That usually becomes apparent as I start playing with the Sims, what they are going to be like. And similarly to that, Desdemona is also a character who's in another story called Othello, and being a love interest to the main character, in this case, Othello. And as the play starts out, it seems to be quite wholesome, actually. It's, as I understood it, it's a Moor, foreigner in the olden times, who is together with her. They have found each other. I think they're actually even married when the play starts, if I remember correctly. And yeah, it seems like they have sort of found love against all odds. Like Desdemona is really seeing the true Othello. And then things go very, very wrong in that story. Leading to her lover actually murdering her. So, yeah, I'm not really sure where to go with that. Maybe that's sort of the part of Desdemona wanting to be just like her older sister, as it says in her biography, that she also wants to find love, go on an adventure, you know. Yeah, she's still a child, so anything can happen, I guess. And then last but not least, we have little Ariel, who is quite interesting, actually, because not only is she not supposed to be human, she's also not supposed to be a girl. So she's the character in the Shakespearean drama, that is a male spirit of some kind, also part of the story The Tempest. And he is helping Miranda's father, the magician, with certain tasks and making stuff happen, getting his revenge and so on. And he's in the end released from his servitude after completing certain tasks. So that's quite strange for this little toddler. So it's a similar situation to how it was in the Summer Dream family, actually, that Bottom actually also is supposed to be like a male character and not at all very similar to the Sims counterpart, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm gonna have to think about how to do that, actually. I don't really have many ideas for little Ariel at the moment. But I guess she can be into spiritual stuff. Maybe she's very interested in whatever's going on with the Summer Dreams. Who knows? Yeah, that's pretty much the whole family as far as the Shakespearean plays go. So, yeah, I'm having some thoughts here about Goneril specifically, because of sort of what has been coming to light as I've been reading through different biographies and the other families, and as I've been thinking through the whole plot line of Veronaville. There are some mysteries going on here after all, and I think that Goneril is going to have quite a big part of it, at least from the Cap side of things. because looking at Consort's memories, she's the oldest sibling. So question is why she is not the heiress in this situation? Like, what happened? And of course, in the story, King Lear, he disinherited, I think he disinherited her. At least he chased away his youngest daughter, Cordelia. But Regan and Goneril, they were still in his favor for quite a while until later in the play, I guess. So I'm not sure actually what has gone wrong here. But yeah, for some reason, Goneril and her family isn't the ones who will inherit the big cap mansion and the family business. At least not the way that things look at the moment. And I think that Goneril has plenty motivation to want to change that with whatever means she has. And I guess that the frustration of her situation with, having this many kids when she didn't really want her life to be all about family in that way might have led to some frustrations. And it's very possible that she had something to do with her sister's death, maybe. That would certainly change things when it comes to who's next in line to inherit, Of course, that didn't immediately make her the next heir, and also not her oldest daughter, Miranda. Because, of course, Cordelia already had children before then. So, I think that I'm going to have Goneril be a bit of a villainous character in this one. And, I think that both Juliet and Hermia are living quite dangerously at the moment. And I'm not sure exactly how to go with it and how intense this should be. I'm not sure how hands-on Goneril has been in the dealings of this. Maybe she's just sort of pushed things into a certain direction, but not outright done anything herself to get her hands dirty, Maybe she has supported someone else who actually did the deed, whatever killed her sister and her husband. But I think that she definitely had something to do with it, at least. So Albany appears to be like a sweet father figure. But then, of course, there's also Goneril's fear that he only married her for her money, which, that could be true, of course. And I'm not sure how they start out, actually, when you start a game, if they are in love or not. But that could be interesting to explore as well, because, reading her biography, it appears that Goneril wants to be loved. Maybe she wants to be adored in all kinds of ways, not just as the heiress to the cap name, but also when it comes to love and affection from people. I think that she would like to be admired. Maybe she is chasing a high position at work as well for that reason, that she wants to, rule over people, you could say. But then Albany, I'm not sure exactly how to go with it, but I guess he's a bit of an open book, so it's going to be fun to explore as well. And of course, none of them start with jobs, as far as I know. So I'm going to have to figure out what kind of careers they should have. I think it would be pretty straightforward to just go with a business career for Goneril. But I'm going to have to see. Sometimes these things just change as you sit down to start to play The Sims. And I might end up randomizing it. That's quite fun as well. And then, of course, I think that I'm gonna randomize hobbies as well, because that's been quite a lot of fun doing it that way lately. So yeah, while I was building this, I didn't really put in a lot of hobby objects because, well, I'm not sure what hobbies the family members will have. Of course, they have quite a big garden. Well, I guess not as big as Goneril would have wanted it to be. I'm sure that she would have loved having that really, really big front garden that the Cap Manor has. But she put in her own little flower areas in the garden to sort of mimic the way that house looks, I think. Maybe she wants to have a little pond and fountain and things later on. It all really depends. But I could really see Albany being interested in gardening for some reason. He has the outdoorsy vibe to me for some reason. So yeah, I'm pretty much done with, well, I am done with the kitchen, and I've moved on to the entrance area. I was sitting down to stare at the living room for a while, but I decided against starting with that, or going to that immediately after the kitchen, because for some reason I just didn't feel like I knew enough about the rest of the house yet to furnish the living room. So I'm actually gonna leave that for last. And yeah, I'm even taking the bathrooms before the living room, actually. That's quite unusual for me, and I normally do the bathrooms as an afterthought, but yeah, in this case I just sort of, yeah, I didn't do anything fancy really. I just sort of put in the stuff that I needed and moved on. I guess I wanted to feel some sort of progress at this point. But then also, as I mentioned, this area of Veronaville I thought was like belonged to the Cap family. And that also includes the community lots that's on the other side of the road. I thought that I should use that building to make sort of a business for the Cap family. And I suppose that would be where their business lot is going to be. I think it's called the Veronaville Market or something like that. So it's a quite huge lot, but I think that really fits with the story of this family. I'm not sure yet exactly what I'm gonna do with it. I don't think I'm gonna make it into a supermarket kind of lot, because I played those in the past and I don't think that they're very fun. It just gets a bit tedious after a while. So maybe a restaurant would be interesting, because I mean, the Monty family canonically has a family restaurant. And yeah, it just would make sense, wouldn't it, that the Cap family also has like a rivaling restaurant, that they are, yeah, that they're not getting along because of that in part. Because, of course, Consort and Patricio has this story that something happened at work, and then it would make sense that they're in the same line of business, right? So yeah, that's where my thoughts are going at the moment. I know that, and I was also tipped off that there are some modes out there, I think from the Sun and Moon Factory, that allows you to sort of, yeah, have your own vineyard kind of thing, and I think also make wine. And that would really fit in with this neighborhood. I couldn't see them having a vineyard at the Cap Manor, though. That really wouldn't work. But I guess you could put in some sort of community lot somewhere. Maybe a smaller lot somewhere. There's plenty of space like behind the Cap Manor, and I have played around with the thought of using the lot adjuster to sort of move a little lot there, and yeah, build a little, I don't know, business building of some kind. I guess farmers building or something for the Cap family, and doing something similar for the Monty family as well. So that is possible, maybe. Because then they could have like rivaling restaurants and also some sort of brewery. And yeah, I think that would make quite a lot of sense. And yeah, we moved on to the upstairs in the house here now, and this is Goneril and Albany's bedroom. And I was actually quite happy with the size of this, because I just felt like when I first started to figure out the layout of this, that their bedroom was supposed to be this lavish, big master bedroom with an ensuite and everything. And then it was just so squished together, but this actually was quite spacious. I really like that. And this little nook here, the little room on the side here, I just wanted to have as an office. And at this point, I'm really just putting in a computer in here and nothing else, because as I mentioned, I have no idea what hobbies this family is going to be interested in. So I am just putting that in there and then just leaving some space for whatever they want to do. Maybe they are interested in music. Of course, there's a piano downstairs, but yeah, they could want to have more instruments, or maybe they want to paint or play chess or something. I don't know. But that was my thoughts of that little office room, that I mostly left it open for future possibilities. And yeah, these kinds of furniture, like just decorative stuff, is really fun actually to put into hallways, because there's not really anything else that you can use these kinds of spaces for, because you also have to leave them quite open for the Sims to move around. You don't want them to get stuck on the top of a staircase like this. So yeah, but I find that utilizing these kinds of table furniture, and well, with drawers and stuff, and also some decorative things on it, some paintings, it can really liven up rooms like this. And carpets as well, of course. I didn't really think about it as I was building this, but I realized now that I sort of mirrored the siblings' rooms here. That, yeah, both the room at the back here has birds on it, but also at the bottom. And then to the right, there's 2 rooms with flowers. That's quite fun. But I thought that this room was quite cute for little Ariel to have as a children's room. And yeah, of course, the little water birds ties together with a, the sort of Disney version of Ariel. Of course, that's not really what Ariel is based off here, but I couldn't resist putting in this little cute seashell bed for her with a little wink to Ariel in Disney. But yeah, I'm sure that this is going to change quite a bit as she is growing older. But I think that, I mean, with 4 kids, and also the backstory for Goneril, that she thinks that this many kids is already too many, I think that they are quite done with having kids at this point. And yeah, and that's also a thing that I liked with what I did with the genetics for the children, that I actually used Goneril and Albany's actual physical appearances for them, because if I hadn't done that, I think I would have been very tempted to give them more children, just because I like their genetics so much. But now this way I can actually follow along with this storyline that was actually sort of ongoing from the start, that they have reached a point where Goneril feels done with children, and Albany is worried a little bit about the family dynamics as well. And then the story for Miranda is, of course, that she wants to get as far away from this house as possible because she just feels like it's too crowded. But then, of course, I'm going to have the university here in Veronaville. And I don't think that I want to put Miranda into the dormitory. I think it would be more fun to let her stay here. Hence why I actually gave her a double bed in her room. And of course, the only way that she's going to be able to use both sides is that I have squished the headboard into the wall. So she's actually going to be able to walk past the foot end of the bed there. And of course, I make that work because I always play with the walls up. So I'm not ever going to see that headboard squished into the wall, so it's all good. But yeah, so she's gonna stay here, I think, to her frustration, no doubt. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. At least that's my idea now, anyway. Things might always change as I start to play, of course, as I've mentioned. But I'm also quite interested to see the way that Hal turns out with his sort of criminal story that's gonna happen as well. I'm not really, well, at least I hadn't planned on playing with the criminals, like the burglars in this neighborhood. But of course I could. I could bring them into the story somehow for Hal's sake, because I'm not sure what other sims would be criminals. I don't think I want to make any of my playables criminals because I have other ideas for them. So yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. But of course, he's gonna have to be connected to them somehow. So I'm gonna have to see. And then, of course, in contrast to her older sister's very dark and moody bedroom, we have this really bright, pink, cute bedroom for Desdemona. And of course, I was thinking about the way that she's dressed herself with the ponytails and the face paint and, you know, the fairy dress and everything. I just felt like she needs to have pink. She needs to be very, very girly. And that's actually quite an interesting thing, that her appearance is so different from her older sister's when her biography reads that she wants to be just like Miranda. Well, she doesn't appear to be very much like her at the moment, but maybe that will also change. I don't know, maybe this very, very girly style is not something that she has chosen herself, because if you look at little Ariel, she's also dressed in this pink outfit as well. So it's very possible that that's something that their parents have picked for them, that they didn't really have much to say in it, and that as they grow older, at least Desdemona then, is going to want to mirror Miranda a lot more. So that's going to be interesting to see as she ages, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that Hal is older than Desdemona, so I think that he's going to age up first, if I don't misremember. And speaking of ages, I have also decided, I think I mentioned this in the previous video, but anyway, that I'm going to age Goneril quite a bit, I think, because otherwise she would have been way too young when she had Miranda. And I feel like she would have been at least adult, you know? Especially if you look at sort of the family tree and her sister, who has pretty much as old children, if not like, I think that Tybalt and Miranda are pretty much the same age, aren't they? It might be that Miranda is even a little bit younger than Tybalt. So yeah, Cordelia would have been a very, very young mother. So it doesn't make sense that Goneril would have been as well. So yeah, I'm going to age Goneril, Regan, and Kent, actually. A little bit at least. Kent not very much, I don't think, because he's still going to be the youngest of the siblings. But yeah, Regan and Goneril has to be a bit older. And I think that that also sort of fits with at least what I have loosely imagined for Regan right now, at least. That she might be like closing in on the age when she's going to have trouble having children, maybe. And she's still childless, so yeah, we're gonna see. Of course, it wouldn't be a bedroom for a rebellious teen without posters, right? So that's what Hal got here. A very, very black room, but that's sort of what I was thinking about this part of his like late child years, beginning of his teenage years, that he was gonna be into those dark colors and really broody style. And then I'm back here in the feared living room. And I mean, the main reason why I felt this was such an awkward room to work with is because I was sitting down here and just staring at this room for quite a while because I couldn't figure out where would I put down the TV in here. It just didn't seem like there was a spot for it at all. And yeah, the only place in this room that I could imagine a TV was actually in this corner here that I'm starting to furnish now. And yeah, I'm sort of squishing it in here. And yeah, I mean, I can't really imagine anywhere else where this would have worked. So that's a good rule of thumb to use if you're ever experiencing that you can't really understand how to furnish a room. Place it down wherever is the only place you can imagine it and start there. And then things sort of give after a while. So it's a very, very bright room. And yeah, at this point, I'm feeling like this could be the vibe here. And of course, with bright colors, the room seems bigger as well. So that's nice with these big windows as well. But I am soon going to realize that, yeah, I really hate the way that this room turned out. I guess it's not my style personally or something, but yeah, I just felt like, God, what is wrong with this room? And I was sitting staring at it for a while, even after I had furnished it, up until sort of this point. And I just realized that, I think it's not really an issue with what's in the room. I think it's an issue with the color scheme. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and alter that in a minute because, yeah, I don't know. There's something about this that just seems so tasteless to me. Maybe I just don't like so much white or something. Yeah, so here's the staring. So of course I'm starting with the walls, like something is wrong with this room. Okay, let's try changing out the walls and see what that does. And I found this wallpaper that's just, okay, now I understand what's wrong. That wallpaper just made all the difference in the world. And then of course changing out the wood colors here made a huge difference. The color of the armchair, and now I'm gonna put in a Chesterfield sofa actually. I was looking at it at the start, but I never put it in, so yeah. I'm glad I could use it here actually, because if there's one thing that I think about if I think of like England, British style, is Chesterfield. I don't know if you agree with me, but yeah, that's where my mind goes. So yeah, this is quite a lot cozier than it was from the start. Yeah, and then we have cars, of course, for the family. And yeah, put in this pretty big family car. And yeah, running out of money yet again. As you can see, those 100,000 simoleons didn't really cut it when it came to this big house, but yeah. But I decided to also put some stuff out here at the back of the building, because I can really see this family having like little dinners out here, grilling in the evenings and spending some time. So I felt like that was necessary. And it's nice also with this sort of rural neighborhood as well to have these little outdoorsy areas, and yeah, furnishing the outside as well to utilize that. Now it's my favorite part of the build. It's gonna be putting in the lights. It's always so nice to see everything illuminated. And of course, as I've done in the other houses as well in Veronaville, I use a lot of wall lights. Not any spotlight at all, actually. That I've grown very used to using in my other neighborhoods. But yeah, I'm liking using these more soft wall sconces in this neighborhood for some reason. So I can also see this family being a little bit of a socialite family. Like maybe at least Goneril is spending quite a lot of time trying to gain influential friends. I can really see a bunch of parallels between Goneril and Mary Sue in Pleasant View, actually. Mary Sue is also quite a ruthless person, and I feel like Goneril is that as well. Maybe Goneril is even more ruthless than Mary Sue, actually. Because Mary Sue is more of a perfectionist, and Goneril is more of a... oh, what should I say? I think that her vice is jealousy or pride, maybe. I guess Mary Sue is also quite proud, though. I don't think she's particularly jealous, though. So I guess there's that. And yeah, that's actually the house fully rebuilt and furnished. So it took me quite a while, but I got there in the end. And yeah, this was a much needed change for this house, I think, because the house as it was from the start couldn't really be used for that much, I don't think, at least not for a family. And I guess there's going to be quite a lot of families in this neighborhood. I feel like this is going to be that kind of neighborhood after all. And I'm very pleased with the way that, when you look out through these big windows in the living room, in the kitchen, you see that beautiful garden with the flowers and everything. I was quite tickled by that. Yeah, that was pretty much it for this house. So next up is going to be Reagan's house together with her brother and her husband. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.